Alright, VloggerDome video. Figure instead of making videos shorter, I'll try a longer one. Yeah, well, anyway, economics. And I figure I have to try to provoke an argument with somebody, right? That's what the whole point of this VloggerDome thing is. So I picked this guy this time. This Lee Dorn guy. I haven't watched one of his videos in 3 years or whatever. And he sort of has become a little bit irrelevant, I see. I mean, compared to where he was, let's say. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, so economics, and so he put wealth inequity in America, the critique, okay, and now he's going to talk about the distinction. I haven't watched the video. I watched the first minute, and I said that's enough, okay, you know. So I'm going to do this cold because I want to get to the real subject of wealth. Wealth, the stuff that's inherited, okay, not the stuff that's earned. Not the stuff that's a reward for good behavior or good conduct. The stuff that's given away because of genetics and friendship and nepotism and any negative thing you can find is why people are given the control of the economy. And totally unmerit-based system. Completely unmerit-based system. And I guess what I would like somebody to do, one of these right-wingers, is to explain. Let's say tomorrow we just did away with that nonsense. We did away with owners, let's just say. We nationalized everything tomorrow. Everything. And just decided that the only way you get any money is you have to work. So when you work, you get something called money. So we have new money. You only get the money if you work, you pay the taxes in this money, blah, blah, blah. And only workers have control over the money. And so all the companies are not owned by anyone. We just point through a democratic mechanism a CEO for each industry. So an election between the consumers of the product and the workers in the plant decide who runs the company. Some coalition democracy. And that guy's responsible for just making it produce a good product. So the customers are happy, the workers are happy, and that's going to be his job. And if he doesn't do his job, he gets fired. And he doesn't get to have a bunch of CEOs decide what his salary is or a bunch of elitist rich people decide what his salary is. No, he has to actually do something. He actually has to be a guy who's actually productive and smart and all that crap. And there's no shareholders, there's no stockholders to please. There's only the customers and the workers. Those are the two people he has to please. Yeah, that kind of system. So no more owners. We just have a system where workers get paid money and everybody else goes to hell. Or everybody else has to say, please help me. There's an unfairness, fix it please. They advocate for fixing an unfairness. And the workers will decide whether that unfairness needs to be fixed. Anyway, tell me how that would be a horrible world. Tell me how that wouldn't work. Yeah. But anyway, that's not going to happen, but that's what I would like to hear.
Accumulated and saved, and that can then be described as savings. Another problem that we experience is when we're dealing with individual income versus household income, and whether or not you're dealing with statistical brackets for, say, the top 20%, or whether you're dealing with individuals over time. Now, I think it's objective. Okay,
so his point was the distinction between, I don't know why, I was hoping to play the whole clip he made there. Okay, we have to understand the difference between income. So people often talk about income, who's making the most money. And so the making the money thing is like Obama. He's got $4 or $5 million in the bank, but he makes, $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So income is the crap coming in every year, okay? And wealth is the stuff you got someplace else. And most people who have wealth, who have claims of ownership, stock certificates or mansions and yachts and all that crap, got that stuff without working, okay? They didn't earn it. They didn't collect it as income. They got it from their daddy, period. It was given to them, not for doing anything, just given to them because of genetic code bullshit, because of non-meritorious earning. It was like given to them like we should give Olympic gold medals to the sons and daughters of previous gold medal winners. We should let all the children, no matter how sissified, no matter how lame they are, no matter how much they throw like a girl, we should all let them play Major League Baseball because Daddy did it. Because you passed your driver's test, we should let your kids automatically drive. It's that imbecilic.
true that when you want to measure how people are doing over time, you should follow individuals over time.
Yeah, okay, so you measure how people are doing over time. This whole people thing, what do you mean by people? You mean, what, blacks and whites or something? Poor and rich? Like there's somehow some sort of real matrix here that means anything? Like they somehow have real blue blood or something? Sounds a little like that.
Problem is that people generally don't do this. They talk a lot about household income. Now, sometimes household income is descriptive and you can learn a lot about it. Other times, it's misleading. Another important thing...
Boy, this sounds like a big evasion coming, right? When he's doing all this work to somehow explain, well, sometimes income has to do with actually working, and sometimes income has to do with having zillions of dollars in the bank, and you get a big, giant check from the bank. Yes, you own silly stocks that the government funnels billions of dollars into a stock market to keep it afloat so you can keep making a nice 10% income every year. Yes, an income on money you did no work for, you just bought stock. Yeah, that's right, you own something and you got paid to own. You didn't get paid to work, you didn't get paid to make a decision, you didn't get paid for anything. You got paid for doing absolutely nothing, and they called it income. Yeah, but it wasn't work derived.
To recognize is that whether or not you factor in health care benefits when you're dealing with income, or if you don't factor in health care benefits. If you don't factor in health care benefits, obviously people's income is going to be less. If you factor in health care benefits, it's going to increase. And the problem is also compounded when you look at people's income before.
Well, I would agree that this whole bullshit of switching everything to benefits, which society allowed to take place because we let unions get a little bit out of control. And so, yeah, it was just basically tax evasion. You know, let's turn my salary into a benefit, and therefore I won't get taxed on it. And that was kind of just bullshit, and we should get the hell out of the business of subsidizing all this crap. I certainly think there's nothing wrong with some segments like Social Security, having an employer-based and worker-based tax. Those might be appropriate, but benefits, outright benefits, that sort of bullshit.
Or transfer payments. What are transfer payments? Well, after taxes, if people's money is redistributed from the top, say 1% of income earners to the bottom percent, that's a transfer payment. But if you look at the income before the transfer payment's even made, you're going to have a situation where the income inequality is much more steep. And people can lead to the wrong conclusions that we...
Oh, yeah, so somehow he's going to figure that the 13% tax that Mitt Romney paid is somehow, when that transfer payment took place, and most of it went to the military and, some of this other really nasty waste of money kind of stuff. But yeah, it all went to these poor people, and therefore now we have some sort of equity in the system, because now the poor are so rich, because now they have all this transfer payment money. Yeah, not really close to the truth. I mean, let's be real here. People living on Social Security are living on $1,000 or less a month. I mean, come on. They're not living high. Crazy, man.
Must increase the redistribution in the United States if you look at the time before redistribution even takes place. Now, in the video, Income Inequality in America, you have several problems. One of the things it does is it asks people what they think wealth inequality is in the United States, what their ideal is, and then they look at it compared to reality. What you see in this chart is that wealth inequality is extremely steep. Well, what's wealth? Again, wealth is savings.
No, wealth is ownership. So again, you want to call inheriting a big pile of money savings and imply that somebody worked for the money and they sacrificed to put some of it away. I mean, that's your implication, and it's lame, and it's untrue, and it's basically a propaganda statement, right? So you're just doing your good little propagandist bullshit here. So just be honest about it, okay? It's not earned money. It's not honestly saved, okay? It's dishonestly acquired, unmeritoriously acquired, and the savings is automatic because there's really no realistic prospect of being able to squander the money. Some of these people have so much of it.
Dealing with income. Then towards the end, we start mixing in terms on whether or not you're dealing with income. Here's some really important facts that everybody should know, and I brought this up in one of my previous videos. As Thomas Sowell brings up on page 151 in his Economic Facts and Fallacies book, the University of Michigan did a study where it traced individuals over time, actual flesh and blood individuals, not just looking at statistical categories.
Yeah, I don't know. So anecdotal evidence is now a good category of evidence? Let's do anecdotal evidence. No, sorry, that doesn't... I don't even know how you're going to make this make any sense. How is not recognizing the fact that there is a top 1%? It's a fact. There's a top 1%, and they own a hell of a lot of shit. And what is this? Some sort of evasion? Some way to avoid taking responsibility for that reality? God damn.
And it found that 3/4 of people at the bottom 20% in 1975 were in the top 40% 16 years later. And people 25 years and older in 1990.
In the top 40% 20 years later. So do we have ages for these people? So you're saying you grab 20 kids of poverty or something like that in 1970, and then 40 years later they're in the top 40%, which is, but I assume they're right at the 40%. I assume they didn't make it to the top 1%. Well, anyway, yeah, well, okay, let's argue statistics in videos, which is not really a great idea. All right, well, anyway, go ahead.
Their income rose 91% by 2005. So if you look at individuals over time, you start to see income increasing. And everyone watching this video...
Oh, whatever. Income increasing. So again, you're just going to do this floating all boats kind of bullshit and just ignore reality. That the money that most people are working now, in $1970, okay, they've not gained anything in terms of their salary. So for most Americans in most situations, that's not true. Okay, they have gone nowhere. They have progressed nowhere relative to the rich. The rich have gotten richer. It's a fact. Okay, crazy person. It's a fact, not a fallacy. It's a fact.
Knows this. When you're younger, you consider yourself poor. You're not making as much income. In fact, this...
Oh, well, who wants to argue about what people consider themselves? Is this relevant to anything? Oh, no, it isn't.
This is one of the reasons why this chart on...
I mean, I really do consider myself like godlike almost in terms of the distinction between my character and my integrity and people like you in the top 60%. Yeah. Does that mean anything? No, that's right. That's not real evidence, is it? Is that the authority? All I have to do is say it. I say so. Now it's true? I don't think so.
Wealth is so misleading. When you're younger, you pretty much don't have any wealth. When I was in high school, I didn't have any wealth. When you were in high school, you probably didn't have any wealth.
No, wrong-o. Oh, yeah, I know. I had 30 grand in the bank in 1978. Yeah, 1978. So, yeah, I worked when I was a kid. Yeah, that's what I did. I went to work.
When you were in college and you took out student loans, you may have had negative wealth. In fact, you may still have negative wealth now. So that's a misleading statistic. You could be an attorney making a...
Yeah, and if you're the spawn of the rich, you don't have any of that student debt. You don't have any of those problems because Daddy paid for it. So, yeah, again, how is this relevant to the whole wealth problem and the inequity built into it?
Very comfortable income, but if you still have loans, your net wealth is negative. So you have zero wealth. That doesn't tell you anything on income inequality or income.
Well, again, income is sort of irrelevant, right? Because if you have to pay for your income with a huge debt that you don't unbury yourself from, you get yourself caught in some kind of negative interest rate spiral. Yeah, you don't get out of that negative interest rate spiral, right? You just end up paying off the debt, the interest, and you never get around to getting rid of that principal. And so you just end up renting your education. You end up renting your job because you have to pay a fee to have it. And that's called bogus.
Quality for that matter. And since people's incomes are constantly increasing over time, they're moving across this...
Well, whatever. People's income are constantly increasing over time. You mean the value of a dollar is deflating. I mean inflating. So, there's inflation. Yes, a loaf of bread doesn't cost 32 cents anymore. and a gallon of milk doesn't cost 69 cents. That's a reality. So most commodities are 4 or 5 times more expensive than they were in 1970. So that's problematic, isn't it? Because then your income doesn't mean anything. Growing income when it's buying more expensive product is not growth. That's correct.
Statistical brackets. They're not stuck in the top 20% or stuck in the bottom 20%. Again, if you start looking at...
Well, whatever. I mean, that's just nonsense, okay? You want to pretend? Okay, go ahead and pretend. But it's a fact of reality, okay? The idea that people have very little prospect of migrating from their class is just a fact of life. And you want to pretend that 3% is better than, 1%. Well, sure, 3% is 3 times bigger than 1%. Okay, it's 3 times more huge, but still a tiny number.
Households, here's the biggest problem with households. Household sizes have actually changed over time. People in the 70s may have lived with their larger families for a longer period of time. Now you have people who are poor moving out and living on their own, and if you look at households of 1 individual versus a household of, say, 10 individuals, if you look at something extreme, well, you're going to have a difference in income. That's why you always want to look at individuals.
Yeah, whatever. It's impossible to only look at individuals, though, right? I mean, you really do have to count into the fact that people that have to raise a kid do have a huge financial impact, not only on themselves, but society. And so it's just kind of silly to sit there and try to parse everybody into their individuality when we know that that's not going to account for disability. It's not going to account for people, some percentage of the population being children, which we wouldn't expect to have an income. So you can't really do things that way. That's called cheating.
Manhattan Institute, and I'll put all the links below to all these statistics, has a really interesting study on the difference in the income if you're looking at households. Now, households is not always misleading, but it certainly can be. In fact, Megan McArdle at the Daily Beast looked at a chart that wanted to see the percentage of where people fall in households based on income. And if you look at the chart from the...
I think what you're going to find, though, is if you try to parse out the rich out of their households, okay, into individuals, you'll find that the rich are even more preposterously rich. So if you want to make the rich richer on paper, the easiest way to do it is to take them out of their households, because their households are smaller and they have more consolidated wealth in those households. So if you want to play that game, I think you're going to lose it dramatically.
It looks like, oh look, all the income is skewed to households in the top percentiles. But what Megan found is that the brackets on the x-axis are actually larger on the 2 brackets on the far right. So, of course, you're going to have a higher percentage of households. And in the Wealth Inequality in America video...
Well, that was really explanatory. Gee, that was just so obvious. So they made some bracket, you're claiming they made some bracket larger, and that's why there's more people in them. No, the truth is that as you get richer, you get more and more preposterously richer. So a tiny percentage, you get to like 3% of the population, and their wealth is equal to everybody else on the scale. That's the joke here. There's a line right in here where these people own everything that these people own. And that's why there's a skew in the chart, is because it's the only way you can draw the chart and make the chart relevant is because the wealthy own so much. That's probably what you're talking about. Something like that, no doubt.
Far right. So, of course, you're going to have a higher percentage of households. And in the Wealth Inequality in America video, you're conflating wealth, you're conflating income, and especially you're not looking at healthcare benefits. If you look at healthcare benefits, incomes are constantly increasing. And if you look...
Healthcare benefits. Again, why would somebody look at healthcare? I wouldn't consider my healthcare benefits at all relevant to anything because I don't even want those goddamn benefits. So, and I've had very little use for them. And I would have very little use for them. So yeah, I'm really not interested in collecting 80 or 90 grand in healthcare benefits when I'm fucking almost this close to death, which is the values of most people. But regardless, I mean, I concede the point that poor people get really rich when they waste a big pile of money. It's really easy to get rich when you waste a big pile of money. I mean, you could argue by having a child, I got rich, right? Because my child cost society 140 grand to educate. So I pulled in $140,000 from society. You could count that as income, right? But we know that's not really something you would count as income. You know that's kind of preposterous and idiotic math. And then if you include the health care costs of that child too, so you're getting up now maybe 250,000. Maybe you get to 300,000 when you include law enforcement and social services and DIFUS and MIFUS and WIFUS and all that other crap. And so you're talking $300,000 of added income, right, by your standards. But I wouldn't call it real income. I wouldn't call it a real benefit. I wouldn't call it anything like disposable income, like the kind that makes your life better. The kind that you say, well, I can buy some quality dinner, I can have a quality dessert. That's the difference. Isn't the only reason why you want wealth is because it gives you this thing called disposable income? I mean, if it's already disposed, okay, if it's already spent before you even see it, that's not exactly what somebody would call being wealthy. Retard.
Households that I just mentioned in Megan McArdle's piece, you have a nice distribution of where people fall in the households. So you do have a healthy middle class in the United States. So I could have done my typical critique, but I've already...
Oh, yeah, well, that's another really helpful way that you presented those charts. I mean, that was just so illusionary. I mean, you just looked at that and you said, hey, everybody, did you all get that? I mean, it's just so obvious. I mean, what's the point of showing an image like that? What's the point of this? Nobody can read that. Nobody. What's the point? And it's 1967. Look at these. Well, okay, this 2011. So yeah, these charts all look kind of similar. Yeah, not very impressed. Except 1977 looks really kick-ass in terms of being different. Anyway, yay for 1977. My favorite year, actually. Yep, I like that one.
You do have a healthy middle class in the United States. So I could have done my typical critique, but I've already touched on this in several of my other videos. It's important to ask certain questions when people bring up inequality. Are they talking about individual income? Are they talking about household?
They're talking about a preposterous system that gives ownership of most of the resources on this planet, that gives fucking ownership to most of that stuff based on no merit. A no-merit system. That's called idiotic. That's called retarded. That's called stupid. It's called unfair, idiotic, moronic, random, stupid, fucktarded economics.
Income. Are they talking about wealth? Did they factor in health care benefits? Because obviously, if you're given health care benefits, you have a choice. Either you're going to pay out of pocket, or you're going to pay with the benefit.
Yeah, and again, so he's going to count that kind of crap as income, so he can just migrate people to a little bit higher number without changing all the numbers. You know, so he's basically trying to imply that somehow somebody went from the 20 percentile to the 40 percentile without readjusting all of the brackets. So when if you do a full readjustment, you'll make it irrelevant again, because health care is something everybody uses. Gee, duh.
That is a type of income. And the other thing is, are you looking at individuals over time, or are you looking at statistical categories over time? And do the household sizes change?
Yeah. Well, how exactly is looking at statistical categories over time wrong? Oh, that's right. You never explained that. You just don't like it because it makes it glaringly obvious that the rich own everything and the workers own nothing. Yeah, that's what it makes glaringly obvious. And so you don't like categories. Yes, no, we have to find some way to evade that truth.
If you're looking at household income. Now, lastly, we deal with the problem of asking the question to begin with, what income inequality should be, or what...
No, it's called wealth inequality. That's the title of your video, okay? So deal with your title of your video. Don't be talking about no income crap, okay? Because, again, this income crap, there's a huge income inequality. I mean, CEOs are not worth 20 or 30 Harvard graduates. They're getting paid enough. I could go out right now and replace a CEO in a business with 20, 30, 40 Harvard graduates, right? I could get the best of the best and run those company with those 40 guys. I could have those 40 guys tell me what their ideas are and what they think and all this kind of stuff. And you're telling me out of those 40 guys, those 40 young, motivated individuals aren't going to be more imaginative and creative than some old drunken limp dick fuckwit? Yeah, I think quite obviously we would be.
What should the income distribution look like? That question of should brings in a serious problem. Say income inequality is a result of certain people being really good at providing goods and services.
No. Come on. Income inequality, again, most of this income is being derived from capital gains, even though we have a tiny capital gains tax. But anyway, a huge amount of income is derived from wealth acquired through inheritance. So don't pretend these people worked for this money. I mean, that's just obscene. That's obscene. Like, oh, they did something creative or brilliant. No, you could shoot, all right? If some disease killed everyone, every millionaire on Earth, the human race wouldn't even notice they were gone. And then all of a sudden, in about 2 weeks, their life would get so much better. I mean, all their Scrooge debts would be gone, all the bullshit, all their claims of ownership, the national debt would be gone, all this crap would be gone. Their life would be just totally improved. Everything could just function the same way it is right now. Business could still run, all this stuff. They're just a total liability. They don't do anything creative, you retard.
People. Frankly, if that's how the income distribution factors out, because some people are really good at providing us with goods and services, I don't...
Okay, do you know that's just being a propagandist lying cunt, right? I mean, come on. These goods and services, what do they produce? What has a Getty produced in the last fucking 100 years? What a Carnegie? And all the money is now a new name, right? I mean, the Shrivers versus the Kennedys versus the whatever, right? So all this old money is in these new names, but it's still old money. What have they produced except debauchery, waste, squalor, gluttony, piggery, rape, pillage? What have they done for humanity? Not a fucking thing.
Really care. However, if people become wealthy because they go to the government and the government then hands them a big pile of cash.
Right, so that happens all the time. You go to the government and the government hands you a big pile of cash, which, you know, if you're on Social Security is less than $1,000 a month. So you got to pay, like in this town, you know, the average property tax bill is $12,000. So, yeah, you're out of money just paying your property taxes. So no food for you, certainly no movies, no recreation, no anything else. You're pretty much fucked. So if you're 85 years old and on Social Security, you better get to work because you're fucked, fella.
And that's how we have income inequality. Then I have a problem with it. So I hope I addressed most of the important issues in the income inequality video.
You didn't do anything, you silly person. But anyway, maybe I'll go to some of these other websites to get a good laugh.
I have all the links below, and it's important to recognize that all the data that I'm getting, we're all looking at the same data. We're looking at the same data, we're simply asking different questions based on what that data is. It's not like this video, the income inequality video, brought up some data, and I'm bringing up something totally different.
Yeah, well, you're making some idiotic point where they're making a valid point that this is a bunch of gluttony and piggery, and that the human race has got a diminished standard of living because all this money is in the hands of these assholes who are squandering it on bad labor. Instead of investing it in good labor, like build the Hoover Dam, build good infrastructure, do some science projects, try to take it to the next level in terms of maybe even energy research or something. Instead of paying people to get good education so they can do good research, can do some good engineering, instead they're paying them to polish their nails and cut their lawn and give them million dollar birthday parties and import a bunch of cheap labor to do it. That's all the rich have done for us. They're destroying our country, turning into a third world pigsty. Thank you very much, rich cunts. And their mouthpieces. They're propagandists. You're just a little propagandist.
We're not looking at the same thing. No, we're looking at the same data. We're asking different questions and making sure that the data that we're looking at actually measures what we're attempting to measure. Rate this video.
Well, how can you possibly run away from these basic statistical truths, okay? A tiny minority of the human race controls, through ownership, most of the assets in the country. Are you denying that truth in the world? God, be preposterous. And that they're doing it not because they earned it, but because they inherited it. You do understand that, right? They didn't earn it. They inherited it. You do know the difference, right? One, you go someplace and do something of merit and they give you money. One, you fall out of a vagina and they give you money. You can't tell the difference between those two things, 40 years hard labor and falling out of a vagina? You can't figure out which one you should pay somebody for? The 40 years of labor or falling out of a vagina? Which one a rational society would pay people for? Reward people for?
Even to hit it, put in your favorites if you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe. And again, I got all the links below. Today is March.
And let's not even talk about the inflation that having this permanent ownership creates. Because all these resources, all these assets get converted into what's called surplus. Surplus in the sense that it's surplus to the rich man. And so if he has 3 extra silos of wheat, he's going to use it. He's going to have it put into the economy because it's just going to rot if he leaves it in silos. It's not going to do anything for him. So he'll rent it to the world. And that rent has to pay interest. And when you make that perpetual, when you make part of the system, you make it systematic, okay, perpetual and inevitable and forever through inheritance, then you're always paying rent forever. Jeez. And that gets really expensive. Rent is not good. So anyway, what an evil
9th, 2013, and that's how the world works.
Yeah, really. Not even close to how the world works. That was an evasion of how the world works. That was just a disgusting evasion. I mean, he just wants to pretend that, oh, the rich only own this piece over here, and all the rest of the people own everything else. All the human beings are lovely middle-class human beings, all living wonderful lives. Do-do-do-do-do. You know, 3 billion of them aren't living on $2 a day. No, that's a statistical fart. That isn't a reality. Go over there and look at how wonderful they're living. Come on. They've got like laminated cardboard boxes they're living in. And they have these wonderful, efficient trenches in front of their front door with the poo-poo in it and stuff. And it just, oh, the poo-poo goes zooming right down, right really quick. And it's really convenient because you don't even have to go to the trouble of why build the bathrooms and all of that stuff when you can just stick your butt out the window and, you know, right into the trench. And it's just so convenient and easy. Yeah, they're all living wonderful middle-class lives. This is just silly talk that all these rich people have consumed all the resources and are wasting all our money having us build them yachts and gold-plating their fingernails. Yeah, no, there's not a huge, preposterous amount of completely wasted labor engineered by a bunch of silly rich people. Labor's for free anyway, right? Yeah, that's right. Nobody working isn't really work. I mean, come on, work is fun. People like working. You know what the problem is? People on Earth are stupid still. They're really dumb still. They're poor and they're still really, really dumb. And they can't even figure out that they're being so screwed. I mean, they're like a horse. It doesn't even know it's totally owned. I mean, it's being whipped and it still can't say, hey, fuck you. And that's what the human race has done. It's letting itself be completely humiliated, and it can't even muster the turnaround just to say, "Hey, fuck you." Okay? I mean, I'm not gonna do anything about this today, but I'm watching you, you fucker. Horses don't even do that. I don't think, anyway. I mean, they could have a secret revolution, and maybe someday they're going to take over. But I'm just, but it doesn't appear like they have a plan, and it doesn't appear that the human race has any plan either, except, please, Mr. Rich Man, give me another Twinkie. Yeah, that's their plan. Begging. Stupid fucking cunts. Oh, because I can't tell the difference between earning money and inheriting money. And I want to give my kids $1 billion. Yeah, well, I make $10,000 a year, but I want to give them $1 billion. Because I'm going to be a billionaire, because I'm going to win the lottery. And people, I mean, bring on the global warming if people are this stupid. If people think that's rational, I'm going to win the lottery and I want to be able to give my kids all the money so they can live better than the other humans because somehow my kids, being the spawn of poor man, are better than other people's kids. And they should drive around Lamborghinis and waste the money and squander it and piss it away. Because pissing away money is what humans should do.